Good morning, afternoon, and evening, wherever you are, and welcome to another NerdTube Lord of the Rings, The Rings of Power review. Today we are talking about episode 7, Doomed to Die, the Siege of Eregion. I am joined by my fellowship this week, in returning fellowship, actually. Zam, how you doing?
Fine, thanks. Looking forward to talking about this action-packed episode.
And Vizaxon, welcome back this week.
I'm happy to be here.
I know I enjoy talking about Lord of the Rings and such. So this week now we have 9 rings of men, and Celebrimbor has 9 fingers. So do you think he's going to mandarin it and walk around with them on it? No.
That's we're talking about allegories. That was a good one right there. To tell you the truth, I never thought of it until you mentioned it.
Yeah. So very very action packed episode. So overall thoughts on the episode. Viz, we'll start with you this week.
I loved it. I was quite happy with the vast majority of it. And sorry, my cat is trying to paw my arm and demand attention. But yeah, I mean, it's like it started where the other one picked off, but mainly I it wasn't like the battles or the battle scenes or anything like that. And it wasn't even now I'm sitting on the edge of my seat for the next episode, and like how are things going to work out with the dwarves, because now it looks like a betrayal with to Elrond, and he doesn't realize what happened back at home. And just a second, of Vast is being stupid. Okay. Although personally, the thing that really stuck out to me, the thing that just really hooked me in, was the reveal for Celebrimbor when he realized that he was essentially caught in a loop, and that's what finally just broke the spell that Sauron had on him. He realized it's just like, who are you? Who the hell are you? And then he realized, it's just like, oh my God, he's been going out on my behalf, and now he has the entire city in his thrall, and he's trying to tell people. And I was like, no, you don't get it.
There was a lot going on in this episode, and I'm
there
here for
was.
Zam. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah,
I think
that
about
that
the only
moment.
thing. I think about the only thing that was a letdown for me was and I can't remember the elf's name, but his fighting with Adar or Andor.
Ariandir.
Yeah. I'm just like, oh my God, that was over so quickly. I was expecting something, either something a little bit more epic, but it's just like it was over in like 2 seconds. I'm like, oh my God. That was kind of a letdown. So I'm actually crossing my fingers and hoping that like somehow he's not dead.
I don't think he is dead. I mean, he might be. I feel like they would have given him a little bit more of a little more circumstance with his death, pop and circumstance, but
Yeah.
maybe. I mean, there is one part where I thought it was a big letdown. But Zam, I want to get your overall thoughts before we dive into good, bad, and ugly.
First of all, regarding Ariandir, I think the ring Galadriel had might be the thing that saves him, which is a healing ring. Secondly, regarding Celebrimbor, I was getting one flew cuckoo over the cuckoo nest vibes from him, because if you've seen that film, it's about a man who is not necessarily losing his mind, but because he's in an asylum and he wants to get out and just live a normal life, people think he's losing his mind, especially the orderlies. And that was what Celebrimbor was. Jack Nicholson at that particular point. He knows he was hexed, and there was a moment when you realize, when he's like drinking his coffee or whatever he's drinking, and he's outside, and he very rarely leaves the forge room. By the way, if you noticed in this series, he very rarely leaves it. But even when he's outside, he's still on the balcony of the forge room, so he's still in the same vicinity, but. Nothing. There's no war. What the hell's going on? That's because the hex been put on him. And then when he finally alleviates himself from that hex, he sees everything for what it is. It was it was brilliant, and the fact that all the other elves thought he was mad, and he was kind of showing his madness in the previous episodes, worked against him when he finally realized that this is Sauron, and he's screwing with me, and everyone's looking at him like, what the fuck's wrong with you? It was brilliant. And then obviously he kills that girl by accident as well, and then that kind of seals the deal for his fate, so to speak.
Well, he didn't accidentally kill him. He was framed into killing him or killing her.
Yeah, I think Sauron manipulated that, didn't he? I think Sauron.
Yeah, he flipped his wrist, and he made and so he made it when Celebrimbor was like, take your hands off me, and made it look like that he threw her over the side.
Yeah, that wasn't lost on me.
Yeah,
I did pick up on that, but it was so minuscule. Like I wasn't sure if that was the case.
Yeah, it was pretty. Yeah, but I loved that part because that was more Sauron. Like he built like I want to say a rapport. I don't want to say a relationship. He built a rapport with this character throughout this season, and he just casted her to the side, which is what should have happened. I'm not saying that that's bad. That's Sauron. Like he manipulates you and makes you think you care so much. And one of the best lines of the episode is when he's sitting there chained and he's crafting the ring still. He's like, you are truly the greatest manipulator. You have even fooled yourself, or something like that. And I'm just like, oh, good line right there. And just like Sauron being like, the fuck you say? Like,
yeah, he's just like, truly, I think it's something like, truly you are the greatest deceiver. You have even deceived yourself.
Yeah, deceived. Yeah.
As well, the one it came across, we see Celebrimbor like physically falling apart. He looks dirty. He looks withdrawn, and in a way, Sauron and what he was like is that when he became the ring for Gollum, and like how he transformed him, you could see in a way his presence just being around Celebrimbor transformed him. And it's a similar effect to the ring because they are one and the same.
Well, and the other thing is like Celebrimbor, like in that illusion that he was in, there was no sign for him of day and night. He could have been at that for days, without sleep. And he's an elf, so it's like days to elves are like hours to us. So that we have to remember, even though I feel like the Rings of Power does a good job at not making elves look perfect, because we saw a lot of that with Elrond in Lord of the Rings, and with Legolas in Lord of the Rings, and and all the elvish things in The Hobbit. Like we see them as these like perfect beings, but in all actuality, they are very flawed. They're not sometimes I have a hard time like seeing them be emotional because the emotion, I'm like, wait a minute, but I have to remind myself, they're not Vulcan. They may have pointy ears, but they are not Vulcan. You know what I mean? Like, yeah. So I do like the way the
Vulcans are not perfect either.
Well, yeah, no, but that's what I mean. Is like it kind of humanizes and I'm not saying that they're humans, but like it more humanizes them, because elves are more humanized than like we would think a Vulcan is. You know what I mean? So it's like that's my struggle with watching elves, because I think they're like these perfect transcendent beings that are very wise, and this show does a good job at it. What?
In the world, but not of it.
Yeah, like it almost feels like they transcend everything in Middle Earth, but like in all actuality, they are still of the world, of Middle Earth, and that's good to get the reminders of, and especially in these episodes, because Celebrimbor is like he's losing it. He has been at this for days and he doesn't realize it. Obviously, as the reflection that he saw of him being all tattered and stuff, like his forge was destroyed. He didn't even know. I'm surprised he didn't trip over anything on accident. You know what I mean? Like when when you saw that pan later on. But yeah. So for me, Zan, were you done with kind of your overall thoughts, or?
Yeah.
Okay. So for me, like the two things, the two, and I already lost one of them, but the one bad thing, and I think Zam knows where I'm going to go with this, is the horse. I mean, I don't. Like,
I saw that horse. I thought, yeah, you're going to be really upset. I saw the horse, and I thought, yeah, Cheetah's not going to be happy about that.
I don't like animal violence. I don't care if it's CG. I don't care if it's fake. I don't like animal violence. Period. And like, I get it. They were trying to make that orc seem evil, but it just seemed like a play to get Elrond off his horse and make that one orc, like, make Elrond pissed enough to like kill him and fling him into the. I'm like, no, like that. I'm sorry. I don't like that. I that really irks me. There is a place for emotional responses, like in Ghost of Tsushima, like when you lose spoiler, when you lose your horse in that game, but you've spent an entire game with that horse.
Or
in this
Shadow of the Colossus.
Yeah. So
or Red Dead Redemption 2.
Like I literally bawled when in Ghost of Tsushima when like, and you can see it. It's online in my gaming channel. Like you can see that I was like really distraught after the loss of this horse in a game. And I get it. I'm an idiot, but still, like I just even if it's fake, I don't like that animal cruelty. So that was kind of like I don't like the cheap ploy. What was the second one? Damn it! I'm gonna have to come back. I'm gonna have to try to remember it and come back. The other thing that was kind of the bad. The good is. I thought the battle was really well paced. I thought that the battle was really well done, really well paced. Oh, I know. The my second bad thing was the death of the troll. I thought that was very disjointed. It was very anticlimactic, very disjointed.
Well, I was hoping to see.
The
one who killed the horse. Oh, the giant troll.
Yeah, the giant troll. Yeah, and that giant troll like threw a horse. I'm going to pretend like that horse is still alive. It just got thrown. It landed on a bunch of orcs and it survived. It's fine. It's fine. It's off running in some field somewhere. But yeah, like.
That's why you don't like Neverending Story. I knew there was a core reason to that.
That might be. I mean, the horse does die.
He does come back alive, though, doesn't he? Yeah.
At the tail end, yeah.
Yeah.
No, I just don't like the never ending. Anyway, tangent. I mean, you're right. That is one of the scenes that I am not on board with this. But anyway, but yeah, they built up this like this big troll and the way it's marching across. I can't say that they built it up in previous episodes a lot, but yeah, I just like the death of it. Just kind of felt very disjointed. Like you didn't even like see. I don't even think you saw Gil-galad like stab it or kill it or anything like that. I was hoping for like this big one-shot scene of like Elrond and Ariandir and Gil-galad like fighting this troll to kill it because it is a freaking monster. And trolls are. I mean, it took the whole Fellowship to kill a troll in Lord of the Rings, Fellowship of the Ring. You know, like. Yeah. So
and that was the movie. They didn't even do it in the books. They just ran.
Yeah. So anyway, any other sticking points on the bad before we move on to the I don't know the good.
A couple of like false storms, like like there were like callbacks to the movies, you know.
Wouldn't that be technically a call forward?
Yeah, I guess so. But you know, regarding like was it the when the elves come along, the other set of elves from was it from Rivendell? Those elves, the one who came to.
No, it's the High King.
Yeah,
High King from where whatever city he lived in with the one with the centerpiece tree.
Are you talking about London or not London? Not London.
Yeah, I didn't know London was there.
No, well, no, it starts with an L. It sounds like London, but it's I can't remember the name of the city. I'll figure it out.
Yeah, but like you see them just charging and boom, let's reveal our trump card here, and it's Galadriel, in a cage, and so
wait, are you talking about a Region? Or are you talking Linden? That's it, Linden.
Yeah.
Yeah, the army of Linden, which is the Elvish capital, I guess.
And so that was, and the next, they're like debating and stuff like that in the headquarters, and there's Elrond there, and he's just debating, and like I think to myself, why it's just these two elves? Surely they pretty much captured them. Like why are they? If they're alone, why are they debating? But then him and Galadriel kissed. I mean, that came out of nowhere for me. I had no idea that they or was it just a ploy?
It
It
Just
was
to
was a
a
make
ploy.
it was a
yeah,
ploy just to hand off the trinket or what
The
the
brooch.
yeah
yeah,
the thing
Yeah, it was the brooch. You
because
actually see him like take it off. It actually
yeah,
makes
yeah.
a distinct little ting noise
well
when he
and
takes it off.
and after like they do a wide shot of the kiss like towards the end and like you can see like him putting something in her hand and her closing her hand up. um a lot of people are like, for me it doesn't matter, like it doesn't matter. Actually, it actually is a callback to the Winter Soldier for me, because I'm like, remember where they're like Captain America and Black Widow are like they're you know they're getting hunted by
Hydra.
Crossbones' men, yeah, and Hydra.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
she's like, public displays of affection make people uncomfortable, and he's like, yeah, they do. And then they kiss. Like, I just that is
Okay,
the
yeah.
first thing I thought of, because you saw everybody get uncomfortable in the room, and it's like, it worked. Like,
Yeah.
people may have hated it, and it's not like they're related. Like, everybody acts like they're related. It's like, no, like that's
I never thought that. I just didn't think they were an item, but it was a ploy just to hand over the trinket.
yeah, it was. So no, it wasn't because technically in the lore, and I don't know if this is going to happen, but Elrond marries Galadriel's daughter in the future.
Okay, fair enough.
So
Well,
a lot
then
of people were actually saying that I'm going to call her Miranda. I don't remember what her her actual name is. It was
it's Mirandia or something like that. It has an E at the end.
A lot of people were hypothesizing that was Galadriel's daughter, like, for a while, because the Sauron comment about, oh, you reminded me of my fair, my fair Galadriel or whatever, or whatever they called her. And I'm like, yeah, that's probably not happening, so I didn't think that was the case. But so regarding the scene though that you're talking about, Sam, the Siege of Eregion in the lore takes place over 2 years. Now, obviously, this is different. I am comparing for comparing's sake, not because I think one is better than the other. But yeah, I kind of like the fact they kind of stopped and negotiated for a little bit. Like, so
I just felt like it was just them two and surrounded by goblins and and orcs.
Yeah.
And like, surely they wouldn't be in a position to negotiate, because they pretty much they're enclosed in that location. They might as well just been captured. That's all. But
I feel like what they should have done is they should have set up a tent in between the two armies right there, like just like right in there, and then they sit down and meet, in that tent or whatever, or not even set up a tent, just like sit down and negotiate, but with Galadriel sitting there or something like that in the cage or whatever. But whatever. I mean, they had to get from point A to point B.
And obviously with the dwarves not coming with is it Balin? I keep forgetting his name.
Durin.
Durin. Yeah, him. Like, he knows that his dad is under a spell, and luckily for him, so do the rest of the dwarves. But his dad has also been empowered, and you hear him about how his dad just on his own with an axe just took down a whole bunch of dwarves on his own. And now when Durin was just about to send an army of dwarves to help Elrond, he couldn't. In the last minute, he was stuck between a rock and a hard place, literally. So yeah, it's going to be. Will this be the beginning of the end of the sort of relationship between dwarves and elves? Because was this the moment that that their bonds were broken because of this particular situation, and it didn't get repaired for generations? Is this where it begins? I was just wondering.
Great. It seems like it wasn't exactly great to begin with. I mean, Durin and Elrond had a bit of a connection, but it's
yeah, but they were allowed on each other's grounds and stuff, and it was less hostile. I mean, they're different cultures to a degree, but they bartered with each other and and all of that. But does it end here? Pretty much. It makes me wonder. So
yeah, I mean, I hope that this is not the end of Durin and Elrond in in the show
In the
because they're
story,
so
yeah.
good. Like they are just so good together. Like I don't, and obviously I'm pretty sure the dwarves will be at the Battle of Middle Earth, which is pretty much the end of this show. But yeah, I mean, I'm sure we will. Those two will have it out. They will have a reconciliation. But I mean, yeah, it's pretty dire right now in Eregion. Like it's.
I think you're right. I think Elrond and Durin will be fine, but there'll be a bigger picture which a lot of people won't be able to understand and appreciate. A lot of the elves, especially. Now, I'm not saying obviously that the dwarves and elves will end up becoming enemies. They just don't maintain any alliance, which is how it is. They don't go to war with each other. They just say, look, you're on your side, we're on our side, and we won't interfere.
Yeah, we don't want to see you again. Like we won't attack you, but we don't want to see you again either.
Yeah, exactly. No Numenorians in this episode either.
Oh yeah, there was nothing besides Eregion, and there was no stranger, there was no Numenor, there was there was no Isildur and what he's doing, in the south. Obviously Ariandir made it to.
Yeah, he was the closest thing we got.
Yeah. Just really quick, a couple minutes, about 10 minutes ago, William Wells said, "Hey guys," he said, "Trump, they're eating the dogs, they're eating the cats, they're eating pets of the people that lives there, and you know what? So are the orcs. Because they are eating
the horses. Yeah, he's still licking the blood and stuff like that.
God, I hate. Yeah,
Eric,
I was like, I saw that. I'm like, you son of a bitch.
It did seem rather. The troll, I could understand. It's like the troll, you kind of expect that sort of thing. It's just wanton destruction. It's kind of what you expected from like the Troll King, and the other orcs going. It's just like he's gonna kill our guys too. And
if we want to talk about do we? I mean, let's just kind of talk about things as they come up. We don't need to do a play-by-play.
Well, in regard, but Ariander, I was very happy to see him mingling with other members of the
elves
cast.
Finally,
well, just other people but he's kind of locked in with Osgiliath, and is that right? Not Osgiliath. What's his name? The future king of Gondor. Isildur, sorry. Yeah, he's kind of locked in with those people. So to see him and Galadriel and him and Elrond, finally together and stuff like that. It was good to see other cast members, who have got their own storylines mix it up, which was about time, in my opinion.
Well, and
I really hope he's not dead. He's arguably my favorite character on the show.
I wouldn't say he's my favorite, but I definitely don't want him to die this early in the show. Like, so anyone who is not in the Lord of the Rings, like, is kind of fair game to is like, obviously Galadriel, obviously Elrond are not,
and Sauron.
Safe. And Sauron's safe. I mean, they could kill him again, but it would take him too long to come back. So like, these characters are safe. We're kind of Isildur's safe. His dad is safe.
At least until the battle.
Until the battle.
Yeah.
So we know when they die. So that's yeah.
Yeah, but like you got Theo, you've got that's the kid. You've got, and we're not really invested in him. He's kind of a prick. The stranger, again, he's probably not going to die, but we don't know exactly who he is, because if he's a blue wizard, we don't know what happened to the blue wizards. I know that in the preview for next week, there will be a face-off between the stranger and the dark wizard. So hopefully, I just hope to God at the end of the season we get a answer to who the stranger is, because I'm tired of it. I really am tired of it. I mean, if it's Gandalf, so be it, but I really hope it's a blue wizard, and I hope we're done with it. Who else? I mean, like Poppy and Nori, they're not safe. I mean, not that they would live that long, but still, like, technically they could die.
All of those halflings, we've seen. No. By the way, were the 9 rings finally built? By the way, were they finally forged at the end of this episode?
What, the 9 rings?
Yeah,
but Galadriel has them. Sauron does. I predicted that Sauron would have them, and maybe he'll get them by the end of next episode. But
yeah, I'm wondering how that's going to turn out, because he was trying to browbeat Celebrimbor into getting them back, and you had that weird scene where he just essentially like force skewered a bunch of elves that were actually going to take him prisoner, and it's just like, okay, now you're going to get the rings for me. And it was just kind of like this moment where it's just like, okay, does he have Celebrimbor as much in his thrall as those other elves were, because he was able to kind of claw his way out of that illusion?
I honestly hope,
because he clearly gets his hands on them because they fall into the hands of men.
I honestly feel like
exactly.
I honestly feel like I hope that they don't backtrack on Celebrimbor as with him, falling back under Sauron's thrall, only because they did a really good job at bringing him out of it. I feel like if just Sauron just puts him back in it, it's like, well, why didn't he do that before?
Yeah.
Like, why didn't he just,
does Galadriel make a mistake, and they just, because it's kind of been established, at least in the books, that the rings kind of have a will of their own to find ways to get themselves into the hands of, whoever can,
well, that's
fulfill their purpose the best. It's like, okay, does something happen with Galadriel because she no longer has her ring?
Or it makes me wonder if Adar gets it, because Galadriel is escaping the city, so I wonder if Adar gets his hands on him, and then somehow roundabout they go back to Sauron. I know Adar does not like Sauron, but somehow
he's doing what Sauron wants, which is so funny.
He what?
He's doing exactly Sauron manipulating him. He didn't even realize.
Yeah, Adar is. It's really funny because it's like, first off, it's like in this episode there was one line where it's like, no matter what you do, I will outthink you or outmaneuver you or whatever. Yeah. So then Elrond outmaneuvers Adar. Sauron's manipulating Adar into doing exactly what he wants. I'm like, Adar, I think you might be a little bit high on yourself for your track record at this point. Like,
he's got one of the elf rings now, hasn't he? So we'll see what he does.
Yeah, that was the end of this episode, which is so weird because apparently he thinks that one of the elvish rings and the crown of Sauron will be able to kill Sauron. From a lore standpoint, as I said, not just comparing, not like saying one's better than the other, but it's just like, that's not a thing. Like the crown of Morgoth, actually, that's what the crown of Sauron, the crown of Morgoth was actually melted down. That crown that they have was actually melted down and turned into a neck collar to hold Morgoth in the area beyond something. I don't remember what it's called. So like, yes, they are taking liberties here, but at the same time, it's like, okay, so what? You're going to like put the ring on the crown and then stab him again? Like, yeah, that worked. Like stabbing him with it worked last time, but like, do you wear the ring and then stab him with the crown? Do you wear the crown and wear the ring and then stab him? Like, it just seems a little silly to me.
Well, it was all because his blood seeped through the ground. Just kill him in a bathtub. You'll be fine. Just make sure that the drain doesn't come unplugged.
And make sure nothing goes near it that he can absorb.
Yeah.
So for me, it's a little bit MacGuffin-y, and we've got plenty of MacGuffins in this show right now, and it's like another MacGuffin, like Sauron's crown or Morgoth's crown or whatever. It's another thing where it's like, okay, whatever you say.
I wonder if this scenario kind of makes Sauron think, you know what, we need to have one ring that controls them all. Or he had that plan in all along. I have no idea.
I think based on what I've heard in the show, he's already got that plan, but maybe he hasn't come to the realization yet. It's not been explicitly stated in the show that he's like, I'll make one ring to control them all. Like, but I feel like he wants to make the rings because he's got this idea for the central hub to control all the major powers in Middle Earth.
Yeah, I was thinking that, and plus his ring is the only ring not made of mithril. It's made of gold. All the others are made of mithril. Correct?
No, the rings of man are made out of are not made out of mithril. Apparently, they are made out of
But
his blood.
Yeah, but his blood was like an ingredient. I didn't think it was.
No, that was just a vial of his blood. That was not mithril. Remember, the dwarves did not give him mithril. It was a part of the illusion that was mithril. So
Kind of fascinating. Because I wasn't picking up on all of these things.
Well, and that to me that kind of makes no sense, because I'm like, okay, then why didn't we do this for the elven rings? Why, because the elven rings technically weren't touched by him, and the dwarven rings. Why did we use mithril for those then? Like, maybe he figured it out later that he could have used his blood. Maybe he didn't know when he made the first batch, but I don't know. It just seems odd the way they're doing that.
Maybe he's just like, it's like, I was able to corrupt the dwarves just by, influencing the, the metal that went into the dwarven rings. What happens if I use more of me?
Well, and that's what I like, and I agree. I'm like, I feel like what was going to happen was that he used his blood to influence a mithril, but apparently there wasn't mithril in that container at all. Is what I gathered from why I watched it twice, and I'm like that part twice, and I'm like, so there's no actual mithril in there. It's just his blood. And then I kind of did a little research online about like what was in there, and a lot of people are saying that it was blood, and it was a not a hallucination, forgetting words. Dementia setting in.
Illusion?
I mean, it was a more or less an illusion, a deception, like a part of his illusion that his blood was the mithril. So I know it's again, it's one of those things that's kind of like, okay, so why didn't you do that from the beginning?
You could tell Sauron, he desperately wants those rings made. He really pushed Celebrimbor to the limit to get those rings made. The Morgoth Iron Crown changed to the collar.
Yeah.
William Wells says.
That's what I was talking about earlier. That crown that they have was actually melted down in the books. It was melted down and it was changed into a collar for Morgoth when they imprisoned him, like when the Valar imprisoned him. So yeah,
I just thought of one of the details that actually did irritate me when I was watching the.
It's the horse, isn't it? It's a
little thing. It's actually not the horse. Oh. Although that did irritate me, but it's like, but because it just seemed so pointless. Like I said, the troll, the troll I got, it was like the troll's just about causing as much wanton violence as possible. It's just like, oh hell yeah, it's like I'll eat, I kill the horse, I'll eat it later or whatnot. But the orc just killing the horse is just like, okay, it's like you're just being a bastard. No, it was Celebrimbor sitting at his table. He's trying to use the hammer on his chains and everything else, and he uses the little metal press to cut off his thumb, because he figures, okay, my thumb is in the way, it's like
9 fingers to forge them all.
Well, technically 8 fingers and 1
and he already forged them by then.
Technically
it was no, it was the fact that it was like, really, you didn't like try to put one of the chain links in that first? like I'm sorry, you're using a tool that's meant for bending, pressing, and potentially breaking metal, and
that's a good point. I didn't even think about that.
In there first, I could accept him trying that and having it not work because the hammer didn't work. I can accept that not working and him going to the thumb, but it's like, dude, you immediately went to the thumb, really? It's like, come on.
Yeah, maybe there was Sauron handcuffs.
Well, technically those are Celebrimbor's handcuffs. Like,
yeah.
Those were something that was forged in. I
think. Damn it! I made these too well.
Yeah, right. Like that's He literally made his own devices too well. That's why you always keep a spare key somewhere where you can get to it. Handcuffs 101. I'm not going to tell you where I learned that at. Okay. Anyway. So again, back to the battle. Like I felt like the battle was very well paced, My only problem is that it's kind of been inferred that the last 2 episodes were going to be the Battle of Eregion, but at this point, it kind of seems over. Like, they're sacking Eregion at this point. Yeah, there might be some follow up, but
the battle didn't seem like it ended.
Oh yeah, they're in the city now. It's pretty much done. Like
there's still more. I think there's still more to come. Yeah, I mean, Durin could still show up. It may be, I'm sorry for being late, brother. You know what I mean? He could still show up for a start. That could change things. But I do feel it will be concluded very early in next week's episode, so we can then focus on the Numenorians and the Stranger.
We've got a lot. I mean, I know obviously we're not going to get
Khazad-dûm. You still have, it's like, it's like they're trying to stop the king from digging. Does he put that one last little, axe pick into the mountain that, that frees the, frees the Balrog? I mean, because it happens. So it's a question of, like, how is it going to happen? Because I mean, that's that's the Balrog that's in the books and everything is called Durin's Bane. So what like he gets freed, he gets out.
To be fair, just so everybody out there on YouTube watching this, we do know that the actual release of the Balrog happens in the Third Age. So it doesn't happen in the Second Age like in the show. We know there's a difference. Don't add us in the comments, all right?
Fair enough.
But yeah, I mean, there's a lot to wrap up next week. Like, I know we're not going to wrap up the whole show because obviously it's not going to. We're going to have some loose ends going into next season, but like we've got to wrap up for this season at least. We got to wrap up the Stranger. We've got to wrap up Isildur. We've got to wrap up Numenor. We've got to wrap up
it's wrapping up to a degree. I think regarding the Stranger, it's possibly learning his identity as well as saving the halflings. I think that once that happens, I think then they can go on to their next adventure. Regarding the Numenorians, I have no idea how that's going to wrap up for a season 2 finale, if you know what I mean.
I think what's going to, and this is not because of lore knowledge, I think what's going to happen is, and again, Isildur's dad, can't remember his name off the top of my head. Valendil, I think, maybe. Isildur.
No idea.
Yeah, I know.
I should be remembering these names, but I can't. I'm sorry.
I know. I'm bad at the names too. I'm trying to look at the cast list and keep the names in my mind. No, it's not Valendil. Anyway, Isildur's dad. It's very close to Isildur.
I want to say it begins with I, like it's Illidan or something like that. I don't know. Huh? I want to say that's like Illidan or something like that.
Elendil is his name. Yeah. Elendil. Okay. Anyway, so Elendil, I think he's going to leave Numenor. I think he and his people are going to leave Numenor. I don't think they'll do the fall of Numenor this season. I think it'll be next season or the season after. Because by the way, for all you flat earthers out there, Middle Earth is flat currently. Middle Earth does not become round until the fall of Numenor. Just saying. Anyway.
So when you say the fall of Numenor, we're talking about the flooding of Numenor.
Yes, the vision that they had in season 1.
Which will be basically they are like Middle Earth's version of Atlantis.
Yes. Yeah. I've actually seen that comparison because a lot of people have been talking about Middle Earth Tolkien has said that Middle Earth is technically not a prehistoric as in like dinosaurs, but like a prehistoric Earth. Like, a lot of the areas that are Middle Earth currently are like Eurasia.
Assassin's Creed with the first civilization.
Yeah, kind of. Numenor is like the lost city of Atlantis, and Valinor is kind of like the United States, like North America. But then, like what happens is like the Valar and the elves and the dwarves, and they all leave, and then it just becomes, what it is, like a land. It's not like anything special anymore. But yeah, and I'm trying to think of where I was going with that, but so yeah, and so I think Tolkien even said, he said, currently in our current, like when he was alive back in the 50s, 60s, 70s, he was saying that that currently we would be in like the seventh or eighth age, from the age of Middle Earth. So several thousand years have passed, like tens of thousands of years have passed since all this has gone on. So there are comparisons to Middle Earth and the current world and blah blah blah. But that's what people use the comparison of Numenor being Atlantis.
Very much so.
Well, it kind of makes sense when you consider how, like, Isildur was talking about. They were in that one city with, like, Theo and all them, and he's talking about, like, aqueducts and everything. It's like, and he's seeing, like, these water spouts where water should be going through everything, and everybody's like, yeah, it's like water comes out of here at a trickle, but we don't know. And he's like, oh, it's an aqueduct. So he knows what it is, but none of these people have actually seen it. So it's like, yeah, that makes sense, because the whole story about Atlantis is that they had technology that nobody else really knew about or forgot.
Yeah. So, I mean,
I wouldn't mind.
Oh, go ahead, Sam.
I wouldn't mind, in a way, like, we kind of end this season with like a time gap. Like, okay, all this shit's happened. Now we jump 30, 40 years into the future from here, and continue from there onwards, if you know what I mean. I wouldn't mind that. That would give a fresh slate to everything else that comes from that, because now all the rings are made, and maybe Sauron goes back to Mordor. I have no idea. Yeah, but there is that possibility. I don't know. Once we wrap certain things up, I don't know where we can take it from here. I mean, right now, all I feel right now is that if the 9 rings of men are made, then surely they have to get them eventually, and then we can focus on Sauron finally making the Ring of Power.
Well, and yeah, I mean, because the differences in the book, I mean, technically Sauron is actually leading the orc forces in the siege of Eregion. Sauron, the rings of power were already made, and Sauron was invading Eregion to get the rings in the books. As I said, just comparing, not saying one's better than the other.
He was on the outside.
He was on the outside. So with the show, they're taking liberties to kind of make it a little bit more, not convoluted, but like, a little bit more intricate. Like, Sauron's the grand manipulator. He has no army, but he is using the armies. You know what I mean? Like, he's still using them.
I had one prediction wrong, by the way, because the blonde elf woman who got killed by Sauron and framed it on Celebrimbor, I thought she was going to end up being Shelob, because Sauron, after she flirted with Sauron a little bit more, Sauron said that there'll be a place for you alongside me, or something like that, or with me.
I think Shelob is already established at this point. I think Shelob I think was something that was from the first age.
Fair enough.
I think.
Yeah, I think you might be right. I think Shelob is a very, very old being.
And then you already have like giant spiders around, so
yeah.
I mean, we've already seen the giant spiders, but yeah, I think people were speculating that wasn't Shelob in the caves. With Isildur, they were just children of
her offspring.
Yeah, her offspring. The only reason why they're able to like spread and even further than they had ever before is because of Mordor. Like it becoming, dark in that whole area in the Southlands because of, obviously Mordor and Mount Doom and everything. Because remember, Shelob could not be in the light, because when Sam shined the light on him, or on Shelob, it really messed her up. So now that Mordor is kind of like becoming this really dark area, like now Shelob kind of domain expands.
Well, we saw spiders in Mirkwood in The Hobbit, didn't we? So
yeah,
as well, like that's dark areas too. So I think once she realized, maybe Shelob's not in Mordor yet, but once she realized that Mordor is the place to be because it's covered in darkness and shadow, yeah, Shelob will be there, and she'll make a move there for sure. I've heard Shelob is like in certain stories has transformed herself into human form and stuff like that. You know about that?
Yep.
So that's a possibility too.
I don't remember why she did that, but I can't
Or
remember.
how she did that. I don't necessarily.
Magic. I'm pretty sure
Yeah,
it was
but
magic.
I don't look at it. I mean, considering like Shelob never used any magic when she fought Sam, and she just did traditional spider shit just to capture all of her other prey, like even including Frodo.
I mean, you already have races like like Bjorn, the bear shifter. I mean, so is it that far out of the realm to think that there's a giant spider shifter?
No, but there's nothing that ever in the brief moments we had with Shelob, I couldn't. There was nothing that ever made Shelob come across as anything more than just a giant spider that was quite smart, but that was about it. I never saw anything beyond that to indicate anything else. And if there is, I would like to know how that's possible, and make it make sense to me. That's all.
Sorry, I'm reading up on Shelob now. You kind of got me like, you got my gears turning. So, I'll read this.
This is a very complex universe that goes back.
Oh, I would
millenniums.
say,
Yeah,
I would say there's more lore in Tolkien's world of Middle Earth than there is in like, I won't say more, but it's probably on par with like the Marvel universe, DC universe, and like you see how many characters there are in those, So I
would say more like maybe in the vein of like Star Wars and the Old Republic and stuff like that.
I mean that's probably a better comparison.
Regarding like that's like thousands of years of like back and forth between Jedi and Sith, and there are some. I mean, there are other factions as well, but regardless, it's weird in a way. Like like thousands of years have passed in this era, and there's no advancement in technology or anything like that. They're still very primitive in what they do. You would have thought some things would have improved. I mean, within a couple of thousand years of us, what we have recorded of human beings, we're already sitting. We have electricity, we have industrial age and digital age. We're on computers and stuff like that. Like, look how far we advanced in just a few thousand years, and they ain't done shit. It's just crazy.
I mean, it does kind of happen in fits and starts, but yeah, it does kind of blow my mind. I had my great-grandfather lived to be 103. He died in 2008. And, so he was born in 1905. Air travel wasn't really a thing yet. And now, it's like now I can hop a plane and, like fly across oceans.
Well, if you're rich enough, you can go in space.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if you...
Yeah. Maybe one day I'll be able to go on a parabolic flight, but
whilst at the in the Fellowship of the Ring at the very beginning, when the ring was almost casted into Mount Doom and Azilgad kept it, that was 5,000 years prior to the Fellowship of the Ring, and everything is still the fucking same. It's like nothing's changed in 5,000 years.
The thing that kills me about that movie, but then again, it's like I'm just jaded enough to think this is like, okay, I love how Elrond's take of that whole scene where he's telling Isildur to cast the ring into Mount Doom, and it's just like, no, I'm going to keep it. It's like you're watching him. You're on this narrow precipice of rock. Like, solve two problems. Oh my God. Just punch him off the freaking cliff. I'm not denying that it's a horrible thing to do, but you're saving all of Middle Earth. I mean, come on. It's like
that's what I was thinking.
Right there. You are just as accountable as he is, dude. You let him walk away.
It's just you two in his chamber, just just Spartan kick him into the lava, and just say I'm sorry. Like he just had to just make up a lie and tell people, this girl decided to jump in, with the ring.
It seems like Shelob's like human form is only. Sorry, I've been listening,
Oh, no,
but
that's
reading.
fine.
But
in the video games.
In the video games, and it's only when she's wearing Celebrimbor's ring. It looks like. I think that's. I'm skimming over this here, but
Celebrimbor's ring.
It's visible in human form in the Wraith world. So in the game, she has Celebrimbor's ring for quite some time, giving Talon visions about the fate of Minas Ithil and the ring wraiths. So yeah, this is kind of I guess it's a game thing. I'm not seeing anything in here about her being, and as I said, I might be missing something here, like in what I'm reading, but maybe it's only a game thing. I don't know. I mean, she is part spider, part demon. So if you're part demon, like I'm assuming you can change into human form under the right circumstances. You know what I mean? Like, it's Middle Earth. Like, Sauron was a pile of goo and he turned into a human again. So things happen. Anyway, so okay, off of my little Shelob tangent. Anyway, so yeah, we're kind of, guys got anything else to talk? I mean, it just was kind of a battle heavy episode. There was lots of good in here, but I just think
I would like.
Oh, go ahead.
I would like a little bit more from the dwarfs next week, just a tiny bit. I mean, like, I want a good 15 to 20 minutes just dealing with Region and the dwarfs and stuff like that, and then immediately I want the last 2/3 of next week's episode to deal with the Numenorians and the Stranger.
Do you how long do you think next week's episode is going to be? I'm guessing closer to an hour and a half, maybe an hour and 15 minutes, but
I was thinking hour 20.
Yeah, I mean
I think it's going to be longer.
Yeah, because I think the first episode was like almost an hour and a half, and then all the other episodes were a little over an hour. I think this one was an hour and 10 minutes or an hour and 5 minutes.
Yeah,
I think
traditionally, don't get me wrong, Disney was head down with that tradition, but traditionally, the last episode of a season tends to be, the longest episode where they got a lot of shit to wrap up and then set up as well. So, yeah.
Then there's a lot going on. So, anything else stick out to you guys you want to talk about briefly before we end? Or, I mean, I think we've kind of covered everything. Fuck that orc that killed the horse.
Oh, by the way, regarding the orc, just very briefly, like you had that one orc in the chainmail constantly going to what's his name, the orc leader, the elf orc leader,
Adar
going to Adar. I thought you loved us, all the time. Don't you love us? Yeah, I love you enough to fucking send you out there to get killed, you fucking bastard. Yeah, you can tell he was full of shit.
I truly believe that Adar loves the orcs as his children, but like at the same time, it is kind of like I'd kind of be like that orc. I'd be like, wait a minute, so you love us, but you're sending us all out here to die. And he does say, I would rather send you out there to die than let you be a slave to Sauron again. But at the same time, it's like, shouldn't they make that choice for themselves?
And and not only that, but they're also a slave to him. But you did see a more humanitarian side to him through the eyes of Galadriel when he was kind of mourning the death of some of the orcs.
Well, that's why I say I think he does actually love them. He's not just using them. I think he does love them, but like, again,
it's hard to say because he's willing to use them as the tool to get the job done regarding Eregion, that they're falling into shadow and all of that. Yeah, it's I don't know if this is bad writing or a guy who speaks out of both sides of his mouth, who does feel some sort of concern for the orcs and the elves, and the goblins, but at the same time, there's no problem exploiting them.
Adar's a great politician, he's like Lord Farquaad. Some of you may die, but that is a price I am willing to pay.
Exactly. So yeah. But yeah, that was basically, I think that was the one other significant thing in this whole episode regarding with that. And I look forward to the final episode. It's a shame we have to wait 2 more years again, for all this shit to continue.
And the orcish death metal that was playing during the credits.
Yeah, right.
I'm like, pretty awesome.
I'm like, I was listening to that those credits. I'm like,
I was wondering if that was just me, but
no, I was listening, going,
I love that.
That's different.
Yeah, I picked up on that as well. That was pretty cool.
Yeah. All right. Next week is the end of the season, so we that's kind of it. I mean, are you guys surprised? Just one last thing. Are you guys surprised that we know Elrond couldn't die, but like, do you think it was stupid that they put Adar right there with Elrond and like he didn't kill him? Like, why would he not kill?
I was not more shocked that Ariane there looked like, I mean, even though he hasn't been confirmed because he was still wobbling, squirming around. He looked like he had died, or like he got stabbed a few times in the gut. Mm-hmm. So that was for me was the biggest shock. No, not him.
Yeah, I know. I really hope, as I said, I figure he'll probably die by the end of the series, just because, as I said, he's one of those not safe characters. But I don't want it to be now. Like, I think it needs to be.
Like I said, it was the pacing of it. It was just like, it's like you guys had this hunt going on this entire season, like even like straight from the last season. This is something that has gone through the entire thing, and it was over in like 2 seconds. And I'm like, really? That was. It's like, please tell me he's not dead. Hi, Lemon. It's like, please tell me this is not done, because this is really anticlimactic.
Riker.
Oh, and and there's my kitty up there. He's lurking over my head.
It's pet time.
All have a different pet each, don't we? It's awesome.
Yep, he's up there. I'm thinking about, because he's alone now after Goblin Pass. So I'm
getting him a new playmate.
And he is not. He was in a house that was that had other cats in it, and then we adopted him. We already had Goblin, so he has never been alone before. So I'm thinking about getting another, going to the shelter and getting another cat that's chill with other cats.
I mean, that's the way to do it,
Yeah,
that's the way to do it. I mean,
but he's like 10. He's like 10, so I want to get a cat that's kind of in the same age group, which the shelter will probably be happy about, because most people want to.
Yeah, most people want
kittens within a year.
Yeah, I mean, like my birds, they're not alone. They have each other, and they're not just 2 of them. There's 3 of them, so there's like that trio thing going on. They can bounce off each other and stuff like that. So,
yep. All right, everybody. I forgot to put the poll up. We'll not do it this week. We got to rank them. Okay, so Zam, let's go ahead and start with you. What did you put this episode at?
Yeah, it's a real shame that Angry Joe doesn't like season 2. I get his issues with it, but but I always tell people this will never ever be Peter Jackson's Lord of the Rings, in my opinion. Even though
I don't get why they want it to be Peter Jackson's. Not that it's bad, but let it be its own thing.
I agree, but at the same time, does this want to intertwine itself with Peter Jackson's Lord of the Rings? Because there are moments when it does, especially when you saw the elven door they made for Khazad-dûm,
but again, that's kind of a lore thing. Like, they would have gotten so much shit if they didn't do that, because it is very specifically stated in the lore that Celebrimbor and that dwarf in Eregion made those doors. So
no doubt, but they made it look exactly the same as it was in the film. Like the Balrog looks pretty much whatever glimpses we saw of it. It looks exactly the same as we saw in the film. So, in my opinion, this is trying to be the prequel to those particular movies. And for that reason alone, the fact that why people have an issue with it, but I don't. I did have an issue with season 1, but I think it's course correct pretty well. I'm going to give this episode an 8 out of 10.
All right, Viz, what you thinking?
I was going to say an 8 out of 10. I don't. I mean, like in regards to like some of the imagery, like the Balrog looking the same and the doors and everything. I don't think it's necessarily that them. It may not necessarily be that they're trying to like tie this into the Peter Jackson films. It may just be that they're just trying to keep imagery that people are familiar with.
That's a good point.
Yeah, because I think there are depictions of the Balrog that actually a Balrog looks more like just a big human. Like I've seen like imagery of the Balrog in descriptions about where it just looks like a fiery big, kind of like Sauron almost, like, but different. So, but again, it's all interpretation. It's all from the books. It's they're Balrogs. Technically, Balrogs are like on the same level as Gandalf. Like just they're not just monsters. They are, they are on the level of the Maiar and
powerful beings.
Yeah. So, I mean, who's to say they don't change their look for when the need arises? Who's to say they don't all look starkly different? Maybe that Balrog looks very, menacing, and then there's another Balrog that looks like just a big, huge person that's just powerful.
Yep. So, what's your rating?
Yep.
So, sorry, it's an 8 out. It's an 8 out.
No, Cheetos.
Oh, sorry.
I already know yours.
I didn't know that. Yeah. I thought you didn't hear me.
I'm going between an 8 and a 9. I really like this episode. We got our quote unquote pew-pews with all the battles and stuff like that. I like the way that they drained the river. That's another thing I forgot to mention. I love the way that they drained the river so that they could cross it. And I love how Sauron...
They built a dam. That's what they did.
Yeah, they dammed the river. I love the fact that Sauron saw it ahead of time because he was telling them prepare for ground assault, and they're just like from across the river, and then that's when they dammed the river. And so I think that was very good. Like good. It's just, it's making your villain look good, even though he's not doing villainous things. You're making your villain look smart. And I think they're making Sauron look very smart this season. And I hope they continue that, because Sauron is by far one of the greatest enemies of Middle Earth besides Morgoth. And I mean,
he's a manipulator.
Yeah, he is the great deceiver.
And that's what I like to see.
I think I am going to settle on an 8, though. The more I think about it, the more I talk about it. Just because the little things that kind of bugged me, us talking through, because I was not sure how I was going to rank this going into it, because I was between an 8 and a 9. But yeah, like some of the little things that we all kind of mentioned here, and it just kind of knocked it down a peg. And then they killed the horse, so fuck them. They're losing another point. And the disjointed death of the troll. Like, as I said, that go back and watch that scene, like with thinking about it, like just that one part, like it just feels so disjointed on how they did it. So
I agree.
And I honestly thought when the orc or the troll like pulled what did he do? He pulled like an arrow out of him on his mouth and he poofed it out. I thought he seriously shot Ariandir with that arrow.
Yeah, me too. Yeah.
And but then they don't even. Yeah, it's like it just meant nothing. Like what are we doing with the troll? Why is he doing these things? Like it felt very disjointed.
The editing was quite bad. When it came to some of those moments, not making you truly understand what you're watching. Yeah.
And that's why I was like, wait, is Ariandir dead? Like, did he get shot with an arrow from a toothpick from a orc or from a troll? Like what? And yeah, like when it was all said and done, it just was kind of a badly edited scene. And, so yeah, I'm going to give it an 8. As I said, a bunch of those little things. Overall, I liked it a lot. The pew-pews, the action was really good. A lot of the dialogue was really good. Some of the manipulation coming to a head. Them having the balls to kill what's her face, after all, and just so casually. But that's good. That is good that they did that, because that shows Sauron's callousness towards how humans and elves and everything is beneath him.
Yeah, we saw that right at the beginning of the first episode of this season, where that guy who helped him, he just sacrificed him to the ocean. Without a second thought, and that's good, because there should be no redeeming quality for Sauron.
Yep. I was afraid that they were going to try to pull the redeem, and even in this episode when he was talking about, oh, Morgoth, tortured me and blah blah blah, and I started to like it, and it's like he became like this masochist, and I'm like, I think that was more a part of his manipulation, not like that was the true story like of how, I know that Morgoth did torture him, but I think he was spinning it in a way that he was trying to get sympathy from Celebrimbor, but Celebrimbor wasn't having any of it. So
yeah.
All right, well, that's it. So next week, what?
888.
Yeah. Next week is the season finale. So everybody out there in YouTube land, thank you very much for joining us here. Me and Zam and maybe some others of the Wrestleheads will be back tomorrow sometime for the Mr. McMahon Netflix series. We are going to be reviewing it. Next week, Lord of the Rings. We'll have another highly illogical podcast next week. Zam will have Tulsa King back on Monday. So we got the full docket right now. So if you haven't already, please like, share, and subscribe to NerdTube, the greatest YouTube channel you kind of maybe sort of heard of. We'll catch you in the next one. Bye-bye.